Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
Now, here's your host, Ed Cohen.
This is Ed in San Diego, and we're on today, Global TV Talk Show, of course, and a special guest, again, is Chase Eskelsen in the Dallas area. Hi, Chase. Welcome.
Howdy. Thanks for having me back.
So we're here to talk about your venture. This is your life, Chase Eskelsen, and FERSKEN. Tell us about your education company.
Yeah, well, some of your viewers may remember me from before. We were really happy to partner with you with my last entity was Verana Learning Partners and the Bridge School, and big supporters of your show from really back in the COVID times, early COVID times. But since then, I have decided to go out on my own and launch FERSKEN Education LLC, which is an education consulting firm. But what I like to say is it's not your traditional education firm. You know, I think probably, Ed, you and I both have been in situations where you hire a consultant to come in and do something, and at the end of the agreement, they give 5 power words and they stick their hand out for a big paycheck. And, you know, if you're looking for 5 power words, fantastic. But that's not what FERSKEN is all about. We are really focused on integrating ourselves into the team and creating actual solutions, hand off something that you can tangibly hold at the end of the agreement that we would work with together. So I'm really excited to talk about some of those opportunities with you.
Well, I'm really happy to learn about this new approach. You have been a champion, as I've learned by listening. I got to stop going I do media coaching too, and I tell people don't do ums, and here I am, I'm doing an God, stop that. Who's your customer? Is it school systems or is it parents? What is it?
You know, so I've signed 3 agreements thus far, and today is January the 6th. I've been in official operation full-time now for 3 full days, but obviously I put some background work into it from November and December, and I've got 3 agreements that I've signed thus far.
Great.
And the first is I'm very happy about this, that I was able to work out an agreement with Verana Learning Partners, and they've asked me to stay on and support some of their endeavors. So, you know, that would be an education nonprofit helping launch a new school partnership that's coming online here starting in the fall. We'll start enrollment here in a couple of weeks. So it's very exciting. The second client that I have is parent advocacy and helping parents understand what are the best options for their students. And it's a really interesting partnership that it's just so necessary. Like, look at where we are today compared to where we were in 2019. Parents now get there are other options for my kids. There might be another solution that fits my specific students' needs better than where they currently are. And so helping parents understand that and move forward, and my background, I think we've talked about this a couple times, is really that policy and advocacy space. And I understand how to be the wonk and read all the boring legislation and understand what it means. And so helping parents understand, what does that mean? How does that impact my school or my student? And then third is with another group that does diagnostic reviews and accreditation visits. So I'm really excited about it. It's kind of all over the place. You asked the question, who's my audience? You know, those are 3 very different groups that I've worked with, some with district schools, some with charter schools, one is a private school, and one is parents. So I'm all over the place.
Well, no, that's great, and you're needed. And there's a lot of resources, as you've introduced me to many of them. There are, you know, I wish you well. I think what you're doing is really necessary, because we're reading in the newspapers every day about here in San Diego about the school system. San Diego Unified School District is huge, not as big as LA, but huge. And It's like chickens running around without the head on, and they don't know what to do. Now they have some charter schools, and my grandson was in one, a French-speaking academy, which was a charter school, which meant it was free. And here you get this terrific education. But they brought in consultants to sort of like what you're doing, I guess. And it's like Harvard. I mean, it was really top shelf. And then they got relocated. My son-in-law and his wife and James, who's now 8.5, they got relocated to Pittsburgh just recently. And they're in some kind of a school. It's a private school, but it's not French. It's Pittsburgh. They don't speak French. They speak English. They play hockey. So he's big into hockey.
Well, I'll tell you this, Ed. I feel like my biggest parenting fail thus far to date is when my son asked for a hockey jersey for Christmas this year. And I said, "Oh, that's great. What team do you want the hockey jersey to be?" And he said, "The Pittsburgh Penguins." Oh no, not any team but the Pittsburgh Penguins. So there's my big fail this year.
That is interesting. Well, James is very much into hockey, and you would think San Diego, ice rinks. Yeah, they have indoor ice rinks here in the shopping malls or next door to. And so, I mean, the kid, when he was 5 years old, he was on skates. So now he's 8.5. So he's playing in this league, okay? And they won a local championship in Pittsburgh. So he's a forward. He started out as a defenseman, but he was having trouble moving the stick around, never mind standing up. So he finally learned how to do that. And his dad, Jeff, is skating. He's learned how to skate, and so they go out skating. So
very cool.
Yeah, it's wow. So you're not too old to learn new things ever. Whether it's ice skating or, in fact, we just did a talk show with this guy, Andy Elliman. He's in the London area, and he's the guy that climbed Mount Everest twice and lived to tell about it. But he was looking for something to do. Just talk about being an entrepreneur for a sec. But he works for a big relocation company. In fact, he's the head of business for Europe. But he always had a phobia about waters, and he never learned how to swim when he was a kid. And he decided, I'm going to swim the English Channel. And people say, "What are you crazy doing?" Never mind the danger from sinking, but how about getting eaten up by the dirt and the plastics? Never mind the ocean liners crossing a busy channel. So he said, "No, I'm going to learn how to do it." And he taught himself, with the help of a coach, how to swim. And this past September, he went into the water, all approved, because you need a license from the government to do it or something. Okay. And he started swimming, and he swam and swam and swam. They thought it would take about 20 hours at least. So after 4.5 hours, he got a message from his recently passed mother. In the water, swimming, breathing, swimming. He got his message in his head from his recently deceased mom saying, "You've proven yourself already. Get out of the water." And he quit. And he didn't feel bad. And he felt as if, hearing voices, So, but there's like a message there of trying to prove something to yourself and then maybe doing it too much already. Okay, what is it? What's better? So with going back to your situation and helping, are you going to help rich people, or are you going to help goodwill type people? What is your target demographic?
Yeah. So, my background has been in digital education. And a part of that is full-time online schools most of them have been charter schools, a few private here and there, like the Bridge that we've talked about the most, but most of them have been public charter online schools. And the demographic buildup of those schools is often skewed to more Black and brown. It's often skewed more towards lower income, and so that's where my heart is there's this whole subset of students that if it weren't for this full-time online school, they wouldn't have another option.
Right.
I look at the rural America, the forgotten part of America. They're forgotten because a lot of them they're white kids, but they're just as poor. They're just in the same situation where there's one school in that area. And if that school is bad, those kids have nothing. They have no other option. But then you enter the benefit of digital tools and you can provide them with a great education no matter where they live. It no longer matters what the zip code says. We can provide a great education. And, a big part of the efforts that I've been focused on and will continue to focus on through the next 6 months is pod schools and how those will really revolutionize. I think that's the next step. You look at
what is
education
pod?
in the 80s.
POD?
Yeah, you look at education in pod school. So education in the 80s and 90s has really just been like every other, decade before, students in rows in a classroom. In the late 90s, early 2000s, these online schools started popping up. Now it doesn't matter where you live, you have access to a great teacher. You can hire the best teachers and teach the entire state and do some really cool things with that. And that was the next iteration of education. We're now entering a new phase. It's really, it was on this path, but then with COVID and other things happening, it really has sped us up to where it's going to be some form of a pod or maybe a micro school. And what that means is you're going to have families, maybe it's a neighborhood, and there's families in that neighborhood that come together and create a pod. Maybe it's, a church. They want their students to come together and they create a pod. It could be, and I actually talked with a dad this week. You're going to love this. I talked with a dad this week. His son is on a travel hockey team here in the DFW Metroplex. And the entire team, they travel so much, they practice so much, there's so much going on that they created a pod and instituted a digital curriculum into their studies so that whether they're at the ice rink in between practice times, they can study. Maybe they're on the road to the next game, doesn't matter. They can still study. They get their entire school work done, but it's uniformed within this small group of students. And so it might be mission driven, like a religious institution. It might be sports or teams, but it's just a small group of, anywhere from 2 to 25 students that come together, and they usually have several things. They have an aligned curriculum to make it easier for whoever that pod leader might be. Sometimes the pod leader is the coach of the team. It might be a parent. I've seen pods recently where it's like a group of parents and each one of them takes a different day. And the benefit is the curriculum is all digital and they have teachers that are remote, but then they get that hands-on experience. They get the socialization. Some of them have fun activities, like they might have a cooking theme, a culinary flair, to where they do their math, science, history, and English. And then in the afternoons, at the location where the pod is housed, they get to learn new cooking techniques and they get to work with that. So the cool thing is it's modular, right? You have your curriculum as one piece of it, but then you get to add around that and build out this structure that it's unique, but it's personalized. And the students that come together all have the same vision and focus for whatever the future might be. It's a really cool idea, and it's starting to really take hold.
So our mutual friend, Tamara, specializing in, for the moment anyway, in micro education, one-room schoolhouse kind of a thing, which is kind of, wow, it's like the Waltons. Remember the Waltons? So, that's what it conjures up into my head. But, how are you thinking about what micro means? I mean, you can't put together a 6-year-old with a 10-year-old, expect them to learn, can you?
Well, I think that's been the common misconception, is that you can't. And the truth of the matter is that I believe you can. And if you look at hundreds of years of American education, that's how it was done. This was before the Industrial Revolution, and we had to create students to understand how to work in this factory setting. And the factory school pumped out students who were great at factory jobs. And that was fantastic for that period of American timeline. We're no longer in that timeline. We don't need people building widgets as much. Now we're in a new era of people designing, creating, thinking outside the box. And that's how they had the Industrial Revolution start, was students in a one-room schoolhouse, and they're getting this information that they still need, but they're allowing those kids to flourish with creativity, which is just not going to be seen in the factory schoolhouse model. Now, I don't want to diss the factory model, because that works for a lot of students. That's fine, but we're moving into a new time frame. So it's time to start considering what else could be out there.
So you're talking about collaborative, idea exchange, developmental concepts that are developed because of, the kids who, because of age difference, can help somebody younger who just hasn't developed the cognitive abilities yet to connect the dots.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was in one of these Zoom things like here, and I was listening to another lady talk who specializes in one-room schoolhouses, and she had I want to say a second or a third grader on this side and an eighth grader on this side. And she was teaching that second grader how to read a clock. Not one of these clocks that we use and we say, oh, well, it's 11:21 Texas time. No, like the round thing with the moving arms. And she was explaining to the student how to read the clock. And the eighth grader across the room, he was focused. He was laser focused and watching. What's happening over there? And at the end, the teacher walked over to the eighth grader and he said, thank you so much. And she said, what for? And he said, for not embarrassing me. I've never learned how to read a clock before. He's never learned. He's in eighth grade. So this one-room schoolhouse creates these opportunities where they're experiencing what the others are. They're filling in holes where they might have missed things. It's a really unique situation, and it works the same both in micro schools and in pods. It's a great, great opportunity for these students.
So who's the brains behind all this? Is it a public school system, somebody in the charter system?
That's hard to say. If I'm being honest, I don't think there is a guy. There's not a team. There's not a person or place that is like the owner of this space yet. There's a lot of people out there doing it. Some are doing it better than others, but there's not an owner of the space. And, me, I would love to be a part of trying to help us figure out how do we own the space. And it's been really exciting for me to be a part of the team working on some of this. I'm the one that was tasked with creating the manual, how to run a pod school. So I'm starting at the very beginning. How do you decide to do a pod? Is a pod the right thing for your student? All the way through operationally, what has to happen? You've got to select the courses. You've got to show up that day. What things happen while students are on site? What things have to happen when they're not on site? How do I prepare these lessons for the next day? And on and on. So fingers crossed, we can help people figure out if it's right for their family. And then if it is, how do we make it a reality?
We are pleased to welcome Adamo Education as a proud sponsor of Global TV Talk Show.
The concept of a micro school is the reimagining of the one-room schoolhouse. My name is Tamara Becker. I'm the president and CEO of Adamo Education. The micro school concept really does not just lend itself to the personalization and the customization of learning, but also the social development and fostering that sense of love for learning. Unlike what we see in traditional brick and mortar schools, we have multiple grade levels in the same learning space. Students can be enriched by the socialization that they get, as well as the academic support from peers. What differentiates Adamo is the fact that we are taking the best pieces of brick and mortar, of digital, and then at-home learning. Students here can come 5 days a week. They can come 4 hours a day. It will really just depend on what is best for the student and for the parent. To enroll, just reach out via phone, text, or email, and we'll have that personalized conversation, and we'll be able to get you all set. Check us out at adamoeducation.org.
Hi, this is Ed, and I thank you for tuning in to Global TV Talk Show, a unit on globalbusinessnews.net. We broadcast to the world, as you know by now. So I wanted to make sure that you understand that our programs are advertising supported. We're grateful for co-sponsors, advertisers. They have a marketing budget coupled with a strong desire to be associated with our top quality program. And of course, I'm grateful. Thank you. So for the next few minutes, you're going to see some commercials. It's mostly very low key, and our prices are very, very reasonable. Our exposure for the advertisers go 12 months and beyond. Some of our advertisers have been with us since March, April of 2020. And Google Analytics has tracked over 125,000 what they call audience page views, which means you looking at this page, that's a page view. Now, if you happen to go to one of our other shows or to our radio broadcasts or to our newspaper or magazine, those become additional page views as measured by Google Analytics. And so when they say 125,000 since spring of 2020 up through Labor Day, a month ago, that's pretty good numbers. And the past 30 days, Google Analytics has measured just under 6,000 audience page views. And that, according to them, is a 42% increase in audience participation over the month of August. So thank you very much. Well, here's our advertisers, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes or so, and we'll proceed with this interesting conversation. Thank you.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
And by airs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
Hi, I'm Sergey Gorbatov.
I'm Angela Lane.
Together we're researchers, writers and practitioners in the field of human resources.
And we've also been multi-country, multi-assignment career expats.
We owe our professional development and growth to a very large extent to the international assignment opportunities that we have had.
But in a world where distributed work may become the norm, we also want to understand what will happen to the nature, duration, and purpose of international assignments.
Together with our colleague, Julian Dalzell from the University of South Carolina, we're undertaking a study on the future of expatriation.
And we'd value your contribution. You can participate in this important study by completing a simple 10-minute questionnaire.
Access the questionnaire by typing in your browser tinyurl.com/expert study. That's tinyurl.com/expert study. You can also find the link here on Ed's website next to this video.
Thank you for joining us in this study. In return for your contribution, we'll provide you with a copy of our research.
And of course, you'll be invited to an exclusive webinar hosted by Ed, where we will share our findings right here on Global Business News.
And so please go to tinyurl.com/expat study. Take the survey so that we can better understand the future of expatriation.
So what about, well, like, I'm thinking of these things. Okay, Harvard and some of the other prestigious universities have said, oh, we don't care about the SAT tests anymore. So then what are they using for judging? They're not going to interview each, and maybe they are, each individual student and then make a determination whether they're right for living in the same place that Bill Gates and Zuckerberg lived in, you know, the Harvard dorms, where all these guys that came up with ideas just hanging around in the dorms, right? So maybe, is that the pod idea that you're thinking about, that kind of collaboration?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, pods are already innovative, especially the ones that are really going to be heavy with that digital foundation, to where, you know, some pods might be meeting every single day. Some pods might only be meeting once a week. And then the things that are happening at those pods throughout the day, they could look wildly different. And that's the beauty, is that there's not a one size fits all. It's how do I best fit the need for the students that are here today, right now? And so keeping them smaller, keeping them aligned with a pod leader who knows each kid, who knows where they struggle, who knows where they thrive, and then creating opportunities within that pod to do project-based learning and to have some of that interaction with other students, but they also are going to learn more than just how to work on a project together, right? What happens when you put two kids on a project and they have different viewpoints and they have different backgrounds and they have different strengths and weaknesses? This is the same thing that happens when they get into business, something that we're currently not teaching in the traditional schools writ large. They're going to learn conflict resolution. They're going to learn teamwork. They're going to learn how frustrating it is when someone doesn't hold up their end of the bargain and they have to do more work. I mean, I've been in that situation at a work situation, right, where I've had to carry the water for someone else that just decided they didn't want to do it. That's real life. And so they're getting those real life experiences right there in the pod.
Okay, so what's your website? How do people reach you?
Yeah, you can find me at FERSKENED, FERSKENED.com, FERSKENED.com. And I'm on the Twitter now. It's the same thing at FERSKENED. You can find me all over the place, but happy to help wherever. You know, we talked about just a piece of what I've been able to do, but supporting both charter and districts with RFP requests and responses. You know, my background is in the public affairs, government affairs, crisis management kind of background. So I'm happy to help in there. And then obviously any help getting schools, pods, digital, both digital and in person, traditional schools ready for accreditation visits or diagnostic reviews. You know, I've worked with Cognia for years, and I think we even may have had a Cognia rep join your show way back when and talk a little bit about it. But you know, obviously wherever I can be a help, I want to be able to help. My goal is just to find the right fit for students and then plug them in as fast as possible.
So when the show is ready for on-demand and marketing distribution, who should I send this to that would be helpful to you?
Yeah, I think it could be a various group of people. Obviously, anybody who's a parent and they want to know, how do I find the right fit for my kid? Happy to help them. Obviously, looking at anyone who's involved with a school, regardless of type. I've worked in traditional district, charter, private. You know, if I could be of help in any of those situations, happy to do so. So probably school people would be great. And then, you know, you and I've talked about this a lot. There's a whole group of your folks who are business minded and they have large businesses and they maybe are in the HR space, helping them determine what options do we have for those families moving outside of the country. How do we make sure that between moves and COVID and school shutting down and then bringing kids back and then shutting down and bringing kids back, like how do we make sure that kids have a fluid education journey where they're not going to have holes in their learning? So any of those groups would be great.
Okay, glad to help. Chase, thanks for being on the talk show again. So Bridge and Adamo and iCloud, these aren't competitors, these are collaborators, right? Competition Definitely. Is not a going word. Just take it out of the vocabulary, right? Because it's all co-opetition or something.
Yeah, I think we all view it as we're on the same team. You know, I mean, I talked with Tamara this week, and I encouraged her. She got some new students enrolled, and I said, "Hey, that's awesome! Congratulations!" And then she, in return, said, "Hey, you launching this thing? That's awesome!" And so I really look at it and say, it's a cool space. So if you're going to be technical, yeah, okay, maybe we could be competitors. But when you get to the people part of it, man, we're cheering each other on because we're not in it for the glory or the fame. We really, truly want to help people. We want to help students. And by doing that, you know, we're going to help America and help the world. So I think that we've got a unique group of people with the right way to think about the problem that we're facing.
So I want to invite you to consider being a guest on one of my new talk shows. called Becoming a Global Voice for Change. All right, it could mean anything. And so I'm finding groups of people, people who make up a group, but they're not in a group. Okay, and they're all getting well known now for doing something that creates a change, either in their own head or in their own family or in their own company or in a market. And I'll send you a link to one of those that you could see how, perhaps you could fit in. So Chase Eskelsen, thanks very much. And once again, it's FERSKEN, right?
FERSKEN Education LLC.
Okay, and so do you want to talk about the background of that name?
I do. I would love to. So education has been all about the apple, right? For 300 years, it's the student bringing the teacher the green apple and putting it on her desk. Hold that thought, and here's the other half of the story. My heritage is very Danish, both on my mom's side, my dad's side. We can go back to the 1400s. We've got the family tree all the way back that far. So it's pretty incredible. So I'm Danish. My grandfather had a peach orchard in northern Utah, of all places, northern Utah, up on the side of a mountain. And I would put those Utah peaches against any Georgia peach. I would. They're the best. And so the word for peach in Danish is FERSKEN. And my idea is to take education from where it is, the apple of the 19th and 20th century, and fast forward and iterate into, we're not just the apple industry anymore. We're gonna become the peach industry, a step above, if you will.
Oh, cool. All right, now spell it out. F-E-R...
F-E-R-S-K-E-N, FERSKEN.
FERSKENED.com.
Yep, FERSKENED.com.
All right, thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks, Ed.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.